The last thing Reza Delgado remembered before the stun blast hit was the smell of grilled cheese. It had floated on the recycled air like a ghost of Earth, vanishing as the Corlax boarding squad breached the outer hull. Now he sat shackled in a humming energy field, wrists tingling with containment static. Inside what he guessed was an alien research chamber, clean, clinical, and deeply suspicious of color. Across from him, Sprocket was pacing in slow figure eights, muttering diagnostics and threats under his breath. "They label my wrench a potential bioweapon," Sprocket said, glaring at the ceiling. "It's a wrench, not a neutron destabilizer." "It was glowing," Reza pointed out. "Only a little." To their left, Boomer lounged on what appeared to be a transparent bench, arms folded like a grumpy god of chaos. His knuckles were bruised, again, and his tank top bore the faint, telling scorch marks of kinetic netting. Beside him sat Lena Cho, strangely serene, her expression more curious than concerned. "They haven't probed us," she said quietly, almost disappointed. "No interrogation, no psychological manipulation, just scans. And they keep calling us nutritional anomalies," Sprocket added, pulling at his collar like it offended him. "What the hell does that even mean?" Reza straightened, his leadership instincts kicking in like muscle memory. "Let's take stock. We were on a relief mission. We picked up a distress beacon." "Which was bait," Lena said. "And we were boarded by the Corlax Collective. They've kept us separated from our gear, but mostly unharmed. Which means they want something." Sprocket smirked. Should have brought a fruit basket. Suddenly, the chamber's sterile silence fractured. A section of the wall shimmered and split open, revealing 3 Corlax scientists. Tall insectal beings with smooth, translucent shells and multiple eyes that clicked independently. They moved with precise efficiency, like a choreographed medical team. Reza stood. "I assume you're the welcoming committee." The Corlax in the center waved a tendril, projecting a translated voice into the air. "We are the Directorate of Adaptive Physiology. You have exceeded expected parameters. You are unstable." Boomer barked a laugh. "Yeah? You should see us when we're late for lunch." The lead Corlax tilted its head. "Your physiological profiles indicate high environmental tolerance, unpredictable neurochemical reactions, and alarming gastrointestinal capacity." Lena raised a hand politely. "Wait, are you studying our digestion?" "All variables must be considered," the Corlax replied. "You survive the Category 7 atmosphere, the boiling belt of Threx. You consume local fauna unprocessed." Sprocket perked up. "The lava crab? That was totally safe. I mean, it screamed, but—" "You did not die," the Corlax interrupted, sounding genuinely unnerved. Boomer leaned forward. "Is this about the pepper?" Reza frowned. "Boomer, I had a bottle of Reaper dust. Only a sprinkle. That wasn't a sprinkle. That was a chemical incident." The Corlax flicked another appendage, bringing up a hologram. A slow-motion playback showed Boomer shirtless, devouring a skewer of spiked meat, sweat pouring down his face as he cheered in 9 different Earth dialects. The Corlax quivered. "We require a complete sample set of your dietary customs," the lead scientist said. "Recreate your standard meals. All of them." Sprocket blinked. Wait, you want us to cook?" "Affirmative. To understand human resilience, we must analyze consumption behavior." Lena's face lit up. "You want to study how we eat? That's actually kind of beautiful." Boomer slapped his knee. "You're going to regret this. Bug boy." Reza raised both hands. "Let's not antagonize the insect overlords just yet." The Corlax left without another word. A moment later, a new room materialized beside theirs, outfitted with a gleaming, multi-species test kitchen, ingredient lockers, heat coils, unknown machinery with very sharp nozzles. Clearly built in a hurry. Reza turned to the others. "Okay, new mission. We play along. Lena, you're in charge of the menu. Sprocket, figure out what passes for a stove. Boomer, I bring the spice," he said, grinning dangerously. They moved as a unit, slipping into their familiar roles. Reza kept the tempo, checking their surroundings for vulnerabilities. Sprocket muttered delighted curses as he modified an alien heat rig into a proper fryer. Lena wandered the ingredient shelves like a painter before a canvas. Boomer cracked his knuckles and started unpacking sealed vials from inside his boots. An hour later, the smell hit. Reza was wiping his hands when the air thickened with the unmistakable aroma of caramelized onions, sizzling garlic. And was that fish sauce? The Corlac scientists hovered outside the viewing window, their eye clusters shifting rapidly. One reeled back when Lena opened a jar of fermented chili paste. The humans were cooking, and the aliens were terrified. Reza glanced at the monitor, watching as one of the Corlacs fainted when Boomer dipped a finger into a molten red sauce and grinned. He turned to Lena. "You think this counts as a war crime?" She smiled sweetly. "Only if they survive the dessert." Outside, alarms began to sound, softly, like a computer trying not to panic. The Corlacs called it Experiment 12 Delta, terrestrial nutritional reproduction. The humans called it Tuesday night dinner. The Galactic test kitchen was eerily pristine, like a lab that didn't know it was about to become a war zone. Reza stood at the threshold, arms crossed, taking in alien appliances. Some pulsed faintly. Others hummed in unsettling chords. "I give it 30 minutes before something explodes," Sprocket muttered, examining a sin slicer with retractable fangs. 12 if Boomer touches anything. "I only explode things on purpose." Boomer shot back, unwrapping a foil bundle from his boot. Inside were 5 tiny glass bottles, each filled with neon red liquid and ominous warning labels in 7 languages, none of them Earth origin. Lena leaned over and sniffed. "You brought Mad Jack's capsaicin concentrate into space?" Boomer shrugged. "I don't leave home without it." Reza cleared his throat. "Focus. This isn't just dinner. It's diplomacy. We need them confused, not comatose." "Fine," Boomer grumbled. "But if I don't get to cook one real dish, I'm staging a hunger strike." Lena was already unpacking what looked like alien root vegetables and 3 types of fungus. "Okay," she said, thinking aloud. "Let's balance it. Something savory, something spicy, something fermented, something sweet. Reza, can you handle the chili?" "I didn't survive basic training and a volcano drop just under season," he replied, reaching for the spice bin. Within 20 minutes, the kitchen smelled like a food truck crashed into a chemical refinery. Reza stirred a vat of slow-cooked chili laced with alien analogs of beans and protein paste, carefully incorporating Boomer's Reaper dust in micrograms. Lena pickled something that looked like purple sea cucumbers in a brine, so strong it corroded her gloves. Sprocket jury-rigged the slicer into a makeshift griddle and turned out passable flatbreads, humming a tune from a 90s cooking show. Boomer, true to form, was sculpting buffalo wings out of rehydrated glored beast tendon and basting them in a marinade so hot it melted the serving tongs. "I'm calling them intergalactic gut punchers," he declared proudly. Sprocket squinted at them. "You could weaponize those." "I am weaponizing them." The first Corlacs entered the observation room just as Lena popped open a jar of homemade kimchi, fermented from alien cabbage, and something that glowed faintly under UV light. The Corlacs recoiled. "You chose to decay your nutrients," the translator buzzed, its voice faintly hysterical. "It's called fermentation," Lena replied cheerfully. "It's alive with culture. Why would you willingly ingest microbial rot?" Reza grinned. "Because it's delicious." One of the Corlac scientists began hyperventilating and had to be escorted out. The humans plated their creations on sanitized silver discs and presented them like contestants on a cooking competition from hell. The dishes looked deceptively harmless. The aromas, however, were another story. The Corlacs brought in drones for initial analysis. The drones began sparking. The smell of Boomer's wings set off 6 containment alarms and caused a nearby fire suppression system to foam itself into retirement. A chemical sensor scanned Lena's kimchi, beeped urgently, and shut down in protest. Reza folded his arms. "I think that went well." "Phase 2. Sprocket asked. Reza nodded. The humans invited the Corlacs to sample the dishes. A brave, possibly suicidal, scientist dipped the edge of a tentacle into Reza's chili, touched it to his secondary mouth parts, and passed out instantly. Another one attempted a nibble of Boomer's gut punchers. It screamed, not loudly, not even audibly. It was more like a psychic alarm bell that echoed across dimensions. 2 more Corlacs went down before the rest instituted a full biohazard lockdown of the kitchen, sealing the humans inside with their food. Sprocket raised an eyebrow. So, we're prisoners in a galactic test kitchen now. Lena was unbothered. At least we have snacks. Boomer licked sauce from his finger. They're lucky I had made the death dip. Reza paced near the sealed entrance. This was supposed to be a study. Now we're a containment threat. They're scared. They should be, Sprocket said, tapping the security panel. I just found a way to override their kitchen lockdown protocols. Reza gave him a look. Of course you did. Sprocket shrugged. They built the whole system on a sanitation AI. I renamed it Sous Chef Susan and convinced it we're authorized culinary professionals. Also, it thinks it's on a reality show now. Of course it does, Lena muttered. The kitchen lights dimmed, then flared into a soft spotlight. A disembodied voice said, "Welcome back to Cooking with Chaos. Today's contestants, for humans in one desperate escape plan." Boomer clapped. Finally, some respect. Reza didn't laugh. His eyes were on the observation glass, where a growing cluster of Corlac scientists were arguing, some agitated, others just outright panicking. He saw one hold up a molecular diagram of kimchi and recoil as though it were a biological weapon. Another pointed at Boomer's wings and mimed an explosion. "They're going to quarantine us permanently," Reza said, grim. "Maybe jettison the whole deck." Lena's smile faded. "We gave them culture, and they think it's a crime." "They think we're the crime," Sprocket said, "which is a shame, because I just finished wiring the dishwasher into a propulsion array." Reza turned slowly. "You what?" "Don't ask." Reza exhaled. "Then we need to move, disrupt their systems, stall them, and find a way off this ship." Boomer cracked his knuckles. "And bring the wings." Lena touched the kimchi jar like it was holy. "I'm not leaving her behind." The lights dimmed again. Sous Chef Susan spoke cheerfully. "Final challenge. Escape with your lives and dessert." Reza stepped toward the door as the kitchen hatch hissed, just barely unlocking. He glanced back at his crew. "Let's cook our way out." The hatch opened with a hiss and a reluctant groan, like the ship itself was unsure whether letting the humans out was genius or suicidal. Reza didn't wait. He stepped through, posture sharp, every sense alert. Behind him, Sprocket pushed a hovercart pile with weaponized leftovers. Boomer brandished a sauce bottle like a flamethrower, and Lena cradled her jar of kimchi as reverently as a priestess guarding a holy relic. "Kitchen to corridor secure," Reza murmured, sweeping his gaze across the dim hallway. Minimal foot traffic. No immediate resistance. "Probably watching us on the feeds," Sprocket muttered, poking at his wrist rig. "I've got Susan streaming her cooking show over the internal comms. Half their security team's trying to figure out why the cafeteria is playing jazz and narrating souffles." "Bless that AI," Lena whispered, patting a wall. They advanced through the corridor, sense of chilly and chilly-based fear trailing behind them. Every few meters, Reza gave hand signals, standard close quarters protocol, but with subtle tweaks, a system they built during missions gone sideways. Boomer called it Chaos Sign Language. Lena had turned it into interpretive dance once. Reza never forgave her, or stopped laughing. Sprocket peeled off at a junction and pressed his palm against the panel. Accessing system map. "Okay, we're here," he said, flicking a light projection into the air. "We've got 3 decks to clear, 1 hangar bay to reach, and at least 5 containment fields between us and freedom." "And what's that blinking red zone?" Boomer asked. "That's the part of the ship now designated as Biohazard Level 4. What's in it?" "Our last batch of buffalo wings." Boomer beamed. Lena blinked. "You made them again?" "They deserved a second chance." Reza grimaced. "Focus. They'll be organizing soon. We've scared them, sure, but fear turns into action. We can't count on paralysis forever." As if summoned by irony, a plasma barrier snapped to life ahead of them, blocking the hallway with an angry buzz. 3 Corlax guards stood beyond it, aiming what looked like modified stasis rifles. Their eye clusters quivered in unison. "Subject humans," their translator buzzed, "you are in violation of containment protocol." Surrender immediately and extinguish all culinary missions. Boomer raised a sauce bottle. This is my surrender. Reza raised a hand to hold him back. Let's try this the smooth way first. He stepped forward. We're not trying to hurt anyone. You wanted to study us? This is us. Humans adapt. We invent. We improvise. You open the door to our culture, and yes, it's spicy, chaotic, maybe a little fermented. But it's who we are. The Korlax hesitated. Then Boomer lobbed a kimchi-stuffed dumpling over the barrier. It detonated in a harmless poof of chili vapor and fermented gas. But the effect was instantaneous. The guard stumbled backward, retching, one collapsing in a dramatic spiral, like a fainting goat. I was talking, Reza growled. They were aiming guns. I escalated politely. The barrier dropped a second later, either because someone shut it down or because it sensed a biochemical incident. Sprocket hooped and sprinted forward. Go, go, go. They ran, down one hallway, up a lift shaft, past a biology lab that began melting when Boomer dropped a death nugget through the vent. Sprocket rerouted the sanitation system to flush sedative gas away from their path and into the administrator's quarters. Lena slapped sticky notes on every wall with little smiley faces and the word yum in 8 alphabets. They reached the auxiliary hangar just as red emergency lights bathed the deck. The hangar was mostly empty, save for a single alien skimmercraft, sleek and suspiciously unlocked. Reza narrowed his eyes. Too convenient. Sprocket ran diagnostics from a distance. Booby trapped, but badly. I can loop the ignition and kill the trackers. Boomer was already opening the cargo bay and stuffing their remaining meals inside. No way I'm leaving the kimchi bomb. Reza turned to Lena. You've been quiet. She looked thoughtful. They'll spin this. Blame our biology. Call us a threat. We are a threat, Boomer said. To blandness. She ignored him. What if we leave them a message? Reza raised an eyebrow. Go on. Something undeniable. A reminder that humanity isn't just chaos and capsaicin. We're creativity, flavor, survival, joy. She pointed to the corner, where Susan's interface node blinked softly. Let's give them the full cooking show. 10 minutes later, with the ship's sensors fried, containment team scrambling, and the humans aboard the stolen skimmer, the Korlax command deck received one final broadcast. Cooking with Chaos, Episode 1, Diplomacy Through Dumplings. The episode opened with Reza explaining chili theory, Sprocket building an improvised grill from trash, Lena delivering a poetic monologue about pickling, and Boomer tossing wings like grenades of flavor into a glowing cauldron. The message was clear. Humans didn't just survive. They adapted, created, thrived, even when their tools were frying pans and their weapons were hot sauce. As the skimmer punched into FTL, leaving behind only spice clouds and a legacy of culinary trauma, Reza leaned back in the pilot seat. Well, he said, anyone else hungry? Lena passed him a still-warm flatbread. Always. Boomer sighed happily. That's the beauty of humanity. We escape death and call it dinner. 3 days after the escape, the Galactic Food Network went to war with itself. The humans hijacked cooking broadcasts that spread like fermented wildfire. At first, the Korlax tried to censor it, declaring cooking with chaos an act of biochemical terrorism. But curiosity was its own contagion. Scientists turned into taste testers. Cultures with sterile food tablets began blending sauces. On a water-rich moon in Sector 9, a rogue nutritionist opened the first illegal flavor den, serving bootleg Earth-style dumplings under flickering neon signs that read, Spice is Life. The ripple became a tidal wave. Back aboard the stolen skimmer, christened the Greasy Ladle, Reza sat in the command chair, reviewing the galactic response logs with a mixture of pride and existential dread. Okay, he muttered. We started a culinary insurgency. That wasn't exactly the mission. Mission drift. Sprocket replied from the engineering console, surrounded by glowing spice packets and wiring schematics. Also known as a success. Reza sighed, rubbing his temples. How do you even measure success when the Korlax High Tribunal has declared us unreasonably savory biological threats? With metrics like flavor impact and revolution per minute, Boomer chimed in. He was upside down in the crew hammock, building what looked suspiciously like a flamethrower made of vinegar and habanero extract. Lena stood by the viewport, staring at the swirling nebulae. Her jar of kimchi rested beside her like a sleeping pet. "Do you think we overdid it?" she asked quietly. Reza considered. "Maybe, but maybe not." You gave them art, expression, a reason to think beyond sterile rations and nutrient slurries. "They fainted," she reminded him. "True," he said, "but they woke up different." Sprocket perked up. "Speaking of, you all should see this." He flicked a switch, and the ship's comms display lit up with a feed, a Corlax news broadcast. The translator rendered the headlines in Earth Standard. "Kimchi causes diplomatic incident, but public demands more. Deathwing spark unprecedented interspecies taste bud arousal. Earth flavor style declare galactic heresy, but it slaps." Boomer sat bolt upright. "Wait, did they just say slaps?" "We've corrupted their vocabulary." Lena grinned, her expression somewhere between delighted and devious. "Language is flavor, too." Reza exhaled, letting a rare smile tug at the edge of his mouth. "Well, we're fugitives, food icons, and possibly galactic culture shifters. Also," Sprocket said, "I may have accidentally uploaded episode 2. Reza blinked. "We have an episode 2? Boomer clapped his hands. "Yes, it's the one where I make tactical lasagna, and Lena explains existential pickling." Lena groaned. "I told you not to record that. It was raw, honest, terrifying, and full of metaphors about being trapped in brine." Reza held up a hand. "Enough. Where are we headed?" Sprocket tapped the map. "New system. Sparse patrols. Potential sympathizers. One local species is obsessed with ritual feasting. Also, they have an underground taste ring." "A what?" "You heard me. Spice smugglers." Reza paused and nodded slowly. "That's where we'll plant the next seed." Lena turned from the window. "More fermented truth?" "More stories," Reza said. "More humans being human. They tried to study us, tried to contain us, but they didn't realize." He stood, voice steady low. "We're not just adaptable. We're contagious." Boomer raised a brow. "That's the title of our memoir." Sprocket chimed in. "Or our indictment." Lena laughed. "Or both." They punched into FTL again, the stars streaking by like sparks from a stovetop. Behind them, chaos, flavor, awakening. Ahead, new frontiers, new palates, new species utterly unprepared for garlic, butter, and soul. As the greasy ladle surged into the unknown, the AI, Susan, spoke softly from the console. "Welcome back to Cooking with Chaos. Today's episode, a taste of freedom. Let's begin." Reza looked at his crew, leader, dreamer, wild card, problem solver, and saw not rebels, but ambassadors of something deeper than war. He saw humanity, and they came bearing hot sauce.